This video is to demonstrate how to begin an ink drawing. And the first thing I would suggest is have really good music, because if you can get into a kind of a groove, it will flow, and that's just a good idea to do with an extended drawing. There are theories about this, like the right side of the brain is where we enjoy music, and it's also where we are when we're making art. For whatever the reality is, we do know that good music really helps the process flow. So I've begun this with the H pencil, the way you should begin everything. It's very pale because it's supposed to be very pale. And I have two pens here. One is the very fine. You can see the tip of it is very small. It's a ballpoint still, and it has drawing ink in it. It's not like a ballpoint pen. You've got to have the right drawing pen. The other one is just called fine. Here's the difference in the marks they make. Here's, for instance, the very fine. And here's the fine. Most people in my class last fall preferred the very fine. It doesn't really matter. Whatever works for you. Or if you want both, I don't care. But I don't see a reason to go back to Michael's to get both. So notice I'm doing some very scribbly hatching. Scribbly is good. You can scribble. This is your chance to do that. You don't want to look at this animal and then try to do every single mark exactly as it appears. People do that, and it's rather obsessive compulsive, and I would have to say that in drawing sometimes a little bit of that would be good, but I don't recommend it to start with. And so you want to look at this animal and then invent the patterns that you want to use. One thing, this is a hawksbill sea turtle. It was killed sometime in the 1960s just for its beautiful shell. And people are still killing them for that, and it's really tragic. It makes me very angry because this is an endangered animal. And so I use it in my drawing classes just to point out that issue. And they live a long time. This one could almost still be alive now if it hadn't been killed for its shell. So that's kind of sad. So we're going to look at this animal and value it and use it in a way that shows its beauty, and that's the only thing we can do now. So when I'm looking at this animal, he has plates along the center of his spine that are V-shaped. I can't quite fit all this on the video, and if I could, it would be too small, and I don't want that either. But you can see, you can't really see. Anyway, in the center of his spine, he has 5 V-shaped plates that go like this. And then the other plates just kind of take in the extra space, and they're not really symmetrical like the ones in the middle of his spine. Since we can't see them, the ones on the spine, we don't have to draw them. We don't have to worry about them. Just show the plates. Notice that where the plate comes to a point, pointing towards the back of the animal, that the tortoiseshell patterns the turtle patterns, show up as almost like tie-dye, and they come in an arc from the point. Here's the, okay, you notice I'm not being very obsessive about this. I'm just doing it. That might be a little wrong though, so hey, I can change my mind because I'm gonna hide all those revisions underneath the hatching. I'll show you in a minute some drawings I did where these pens weren't even invented yet. I wish they had been. So I was using a crowquill pen, the kind that they used to write with in the 19th century. They're still used for art. And I was dipping it in a bottle of ink. And when you do that, if you dip it too far, you get drops of ink. So I'll show you this drawing where I made all sorts of mistakes. And it was like a drawing that I'd probably spent about 23 hours on. You'll see it in a minute. And I hit them all in the hatching. That's amazing. A lot of students are very reluctant to begin in a strange medium, and this is probably new to most of you. I would expect so, and that's where we're starting. And it's a medium that, oh, you can't erase it. Why does it matter? It doesn't matter. And you guys don't have to use a bottle of ink and a pen that you dip in it, like I did. So these are great pens, so go for it. It's really fun. And with shapes like this that are just completely abstract, you don't have to copy every little thing. I think of these arcs of ink lines, and they are kind of like arcs, although they're not exact, they're not perfect, but I think of them as looking a little bit like tie-dye, like the patterns that you see in tie-dye. It doesn't matter, just have fun with it. Just let your music take you to a place. You see how I can screw up and still cover it? I can go outside the edges, and it doesn't matter, guys. So try to calm your fears of an unerasable medium, please. And the sea turtle is a good place to do that. But it's the same with everything. So let's go over on the eye, 'cause eyes are fascinating. Maybe, now this eye, you can tell that it was done by kind of a primitive taxidermist because the eye is not like a fake glass eye, like in a lot of taxidermies. It's a seashell. So this was probably done by a native amateur taxidermist who was just trying to make some money. I'm not sure how I want to do this. I should probably think about it for a minute. But I'm not. I'm just going to go for it. Eyes are really important. They're a focal point. Focal points are the part of the drawing where you look at the longest and that draw the viewer in. So eyes are always a focal point. There's more I would do with the eye. I could even do stippling. Stippling, it's in your assignment. This is stippling, and do it fast. Don't do it like this, okay? It will be crazy. Be crazy long and maybe boring even. But you can see how this is done easily with music because there's a rhythm to it if you can get into it. So now I'm using the fine pen, which if you notice, it's really not that fine. But if you really want large black areas, no, I'm sorry, it's a very fine, and this is the fine. Okay, so it gives you a lot more large black areas. The way these plates on the shell divide, they're divided with a white line or a lighter line, but I'm not going to do that. It's not in my best interest to obsess over that. So I'm going to move on here with I'm going to be doing a lot of this kind of stuff on this guy, and that's okay. Just like I said, let the music take you where it will. And when you're working and you're using the right side of the brain, we are less conscious of the passage of time. We are usually like in a pretty good place. Like it's therapeutic for most people. When I'm working in my studio, I can just be grooving along for like 3 or 4 hours, and then suddenly I'll stop and, oh my gosh, I'm aware of my body again. Oh, I'm hungry. I'm tired. It's like, takes you to a good place. I hope that it does it for you too. It undoubtedly will. So, I wish that you were all live so you could ask questions now, but we'll do that in class. Now I'm going to move to another drawing